Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire. I'm glad you are listening today. This episode could be just for you, and I hope it's going to help. There's a friend of mine who is gone to be with Jesus a couple of weeks ago, and he had a significant part in our student missions trips that we took when I was at one church for almost 30 years. His name was Wes Collins. I remember my first trip to Guatemala City, then out to Comitancillo in the San Marcos department of Guatemala with Wes. It was suggested by a mutual friend of ours, Charlie Stewart, that we go on this trip. So it was a go-see trip, and we got to work and do those things, and some students went with us. Wes Collins, a missionary with Wycliffe translators, Wycliffe translators, which is a major organization that goes all over the world and gives indigenous people a written language. And if they had it at one time, but it was taken away like it was with the Mom Indians, then they would go in there and give their language, give them a written language again. That was a lost written language because of other countries taking them over. And that's what happened with the Mom, M-A-M, Mayan people. Mayan is M-Y-A-N people. The Spanish came in hundreds of years ago and told them their language was worthless and told them that they really were worthless, that they were not as great as the people that were taking over their country. And so the Spanish came in and told them they had to speak Spanish. So most of them were ashamed of their language because of the way they were overrun and taken over. And this happened with many indigenous people all over the world. So Wes, as a missionary, gave them back their sense of worth. It took him 10 years to translate, and first of all, they would translate their language and hire some of the indigenous people to help them get the phonetics down. First of all, the New Testament of the Bible back in their own language, and so that they would have a worth of also that God loves them, and that it was these missionaries who came and gave them their language back. And Wes also had a degree in anthropology, and later he'd get his doctor's degree. And after spending 10 years with the Mom people, M-A-M, he would later end up being a professor, a doctor, Wes Collins, and I believe it was somewhere in Peru that he taught university classes and seminary classes. It was hard on my wife, Colleen, though, when I was down there, because the first years, we only did 5 years there. But Colleen, with our young boys, it was hard on her because it was not possible to communicate by phone or by computer. And those first years we would visit. Communication blackout. And not only were we there, it's not usually the way we would do things with ministry, with missions, with our student missions, because when you have adolescents on a trip, you have to think of the legal ramifications. I said legal ramifications because you're there with someone else's children, and they are legally bound to their parents, and we are responsible for them under legal boundaries, when we have them and their parents aren't with us. We usually went with student missions groups or organizations that very well understood that. But for these 5 to 6 trips, 5 years and 6 trips with students, it was a great time because we got to know Wes and Nancy. We understood that we could trust them. We still had questions about how we could make sure that our students were safe and what would happen in different situations. But it was great, and the students loved Wes and Nancy and their children who were there. and it was just an amazing time. It would include volcanoes. It would include walking the streets at night those first years. I remember one of the first nights that we walked the streets, it was just me and Wes. Everyone else was after supper, getting ready for bed and things. And so he would take me from store to store. We were looking for a television that worked, that would have an NFL game on at that time. So volcanoes, we were near one of the tallest volcanoes in Central America. If you went to the top of Comitancillo, you could look straight at the top of that volcano. It was inactive, so that was a good thing. Ocean trips back and forth to the black sands of Guatemala, which is on the Pacific side. And on the way back, after we'd finished working up in the missions, we would usually about every other year get to go to a hotel for a night and swim in the ocean and go to several marcadas and shop and different things like that on the last days. But all the other time, we're doing construction. We're doing vacation Bible school with the Mayan children. And we would also take medical teams at different times. Still, Guatemala guerrillas were in the area. We didn't really see any activity. It was at the end of a lot of that controversy at that point. So, it was enough for my wife and others to be a little concerned, but trusting a guy by the name of Charlie Stewart, who is a part of our church. He had a great reputation and also was one of the mentors of Wes and Nancy during their young teenage years. Wes set us up for a day trip because I asked for it to go to the Guatemala City dump, to the garbage dump ministry, which was an incredible eye-opener in extreme poverty, because it was in extreme poverty. One day there was just pretty much life-changing for all of us, and especially our students who had never seen poverty like that in their lifetime. There was about 6,000 people in the Guatemala City dump that lived there. That was their life. Children were born there. Moms, fed their babies there. It was everything you could think of a garbage dump, and the smells and everything else. And Wes was gracious because that was not our original mission. It wasn't his mission. They knew that we wanted to be a part of something like that as well. And so we would get one day in there for several trips. And then we'd go up to the mountains and work in that city with the Mayan Indigenous people for the rest of the time until we went home. Usually a 10-day trip, but we did that over and over with Wes and Nancy. Great food, great adventures, sharing Jesus, being a part of something so big that was beyond Wes's life and our students, and the effects of his ministry would go on because of translating the New Testament into a new written language for the Mam people and giving them back their language and help them to know that they can be proud of the language that God gave them and allowed them to speak all those years before the Spanish showed up. So, of course, these people were bilingual, but very seldom would speak in public their native language. So thank you, Wes. Thank you, Nancy, for all you guys have done. Wes, we'll see you in heaven. I know you're there with many people that you've helped over the decades, and I'm very proud of you and thankful for all that you gave to many people groups and the people that you trained because of getting your doctor's degree and being able to teach and also serve the people that came up to visit you in Guatemala. So, Nancy, praying for you and the family. Very grateful for all that you guys have done. And thank you for keeping on, and your children doing all that they're doing, and they're all over the world now as well. Remember, you can write us at youthworkeronfire@gmail.com. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.